Hi, my name is Michael Cullen for Film Sound Tutorials, and today I want to be talking about audio networking tips. So, if you've noticed, I haven't been on YouTube for about 2 years now, and one of the big reasons for that is that I decided to double down on networking within the audio community. Because even though I have a fairly stable job, I realized that to be successful and to keep being able to work in the audio community, I needed to know more people. Now, I realize that networking is not something that comes easily for most people, myself included. So, what I wanted to do is to put a short presentation together to kind of tell you the tips that I use that I've developed over the past couple years to make networking fun and even somewhat enjoyable. So, first off, before going to an event, you have to actually think about what makes you unique as an audio professional. And so that could include your background, that could be your education, your training, your skills. That could be the certificates that you have. It could be the location. It could be your viewpoint on audio workflows, on different programs, different trends. And when you put that all together, that essentially becomes your audio brand, and you can use that to make your elevator pitch. So your elevator pitch is your background, plus your experiences, plus your goals. So when I was just graduating from university and I was trying to meet people, here was the elevator pitch that I came up with. I'm a sound design student who has recorded production sound and sound designed and mixed multiple short films in stereo and 5.1 surround. I also have a background in musical theater. I used to run a DJing company, and I received a minor in opera singing. And what's my goal? My goal is to work in post-production for an internship. I'm also looking for an audio mentor, and I want to work on large budget Hollywood films. And so that's what I used when I first started meeting people coming out of university. So now that you have your elevator pitch, the general steps of networking is that you want to go and make new connections. Once you have those connections, then you want to build those connections into actual relationships. You want to build trust. And from that trust, that's when you actually start getting recommended for work, and it will help you eventually find new work or find a new job. Cool. So now that you've done your homework and you have your elevator pitch, this is the collection of ideas that you're going to use when you actually start networking. So first off, I think the most important tip I can give you in this video is do not start off your conversation with your elevator pitch. This is the most common mistake that I see a lot of younger junior sound designers using, and it's just too much. You want to just weave your elevator pitch within that conversation. Because if you start off with an elevator pitch, then you kind of sound like a salesman and you don't sound genuine, and the whole conversation will kind of unravel from there. Another tip that you can use is that when you go into these networking events, just set yourself a goal and kind of gamify the experience. So generally when I go to these, I say, okay, I want to at least meet 3 new people and hear about what projects they're working on. And it could be as simple as that. When you gamify your experience, once you've completed your goal, then you feel good and you know that it was worthwhile coming to this event. Don't be afraid to start or end conversations. Networking is hard for everyone, and so everyone also feels the same kind of nervousness that you're feeling, and so you just kind of have to fake it until you make it for these conversations. Also, when you're in a conversation and it feels like it's kind of trailing off or it isn't as interesting, don't be afraid to go and excuse yourself to go to the restroom or get some water or get some more food, because you don't have to be stuck in a conversation that's not really that useful anymore. Another bullet point that I was thinking about, and I'm kind of embarrassed that I have to include this, is that you should be genuinely interested in what other people are working on. I've had a lot of conversations that just seemed kind of one-sided, and that someone wanted to sell me something or sell me on their work, and it's just not that great. So when you're going to these events, do try to be interested in other people and what they're working on. Another one is I would stay away from technical jargon and acronyms. Generally, it's just too much info when you're talking in person. Another common mistake I see when people are networking is that they try to go for the most experienced person, but if you're just a junior sound designer, you actually get better information when you start talking to people at your same level or just slightly more experienced than you. Because that one person that you want to talk to with all that experience generally isn't going to hire you for more work because they already have their own team of people that they work with normally. Another thing too is that you should realize that when you go to these events, people might not actually have anything to give you. A lot of companies right now, as you probably know, have done a lot of layoffs, and so they might not actually have an audio position open or extra work available that they could give you even if they wanted to. So it's just something to be aware of, and you shouldn't take it personally if they don't have anything to give. And then last tip in this long list is make sure you actually reach out to them online and connect with them so you can stay up to date with what they've been working on after you've talked to them. So next up, I think one of the hardest part with networking is just starting a conversation. And so here's a couple conversation starters that I use to just try to get a conversation going. And so of course the easiest one is just, how's your day going? What projects are you working on? How did you hear about this event? I went to a networking event yesterday and didn't really know a lot of people. And so I used, how are you connected to this? How did you get invited to this? And actually learned quite a bit from that. If you're at a large convention, you could talk about, oh, what's the coolest talk you saw? Or what's the coolest exhibit that you saw today? Another good topic to bring up is about people's audio studio. People love to talk about their studios. And so you could talk about their location or how they built the studio and stuff like that, where they actually do their work. And if all else fails, you could always talk about the latest video game or the latest movie and the audio that comes from that. So hopefully these are some easy conversation starters that you can use. And then like I mentioned before, after you make a connection, you want to make sure that you follow up a few days later. You could send a short message on LinkedIn or email and send them some more information if you think that's relevant. But in this follow-up, again, do not pester them for a job unless they told you to. And if they did tell you to ask them for a job and they have like an online portal or job opening, make sure that you send them exactly what that job portal needs so that they could easily refer you for that job. Cool. So the next question that I normally get asked is, where can I go to these different networking events? I'm located in California, so these are the ones that I'm more knowledgeable about. But NAMM in late January in Anaheim has a big audio community, obviously. There's a new Mix event in Santa Monica in March that was really great. GDC is always a favorite, that you can meet a bunch of game audio people. Develop Brighton in July has a lot more people from the UK and from Europe. Mix for Sound in Culver City in September is also a great event. Game SoundCon is fantastic if you're into game audio, and that's in October. The ADC in November is also a good one. And then, of course, AES has a ton of different conferences and local meetups if you can find their meetup schedule as well. Oh, and if you can, make sure that you go to the after parties, because those are a great time to meet people and build connections as well. And if you're looking for where these different invitations are from, here's the slide that I had in my previous networking video about all the different audio communities. I would highly recommend to reach out to any of these audio communities because they're fantastic. And if you're looking for more events, here's a couple different aggregators that put all the different events into one schedule so you can kind of help build out who you can meet where. Now, I understand that a lot of these events are either in the US or in the UK, and it's really expensive to go to them. So after COVID, luckily there's been a whole bunch of new virtual networking opportunities as well. And so here's a bunch of different organizations I know that have been putting on different virtual online communities. I know the unions have been putting on various Zoom talks that I've been going to that have been really interesting. Of course, Airwiggles and the game audio learning community have been some great resources that's been coming up the past few years. There are also some great audio groups on Facebook still, on X, on Reddit. There's also some great Discord servers that I've now been a part of. Twitch, podcasts, and there's just so many virtual communities nowadays that it's just fantastic that you can find your place in any of these communities. So in conclusion, I just want to reinforce that networking is really hard and is really awkward for everyone, but it is actually really valuable and worth the effort. As I found, networking locally has reaped a lot of rewards for me recently, and I think if you can invest in your community, that's a really good idea. Before you go to these networking events, make sure that you have some kind of elevator pitch or personal brand that you know who you are and what you want to talk about. And then after you meet these people, make sure that you make the connections and you follow up online. Also, make sure you meet the people that have similar experience to you or slightly ahead of you, because those are going to be your best peers. And lastly, networking is good for you, obviously, for your career, but it also helps you make a lot of great friendships and great connections. And those are the people that will then recommend you for work in the future. So hopefully this video is helpful. Feel free to ask any questions you have in the comments, and I'll respond to them when I have some time. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.